Good morning everyone. Basa tayo ng Bible guys. 2 Samuel 3, 4 and 5. And Luke chapter 14 verse 25 to 35. Dito muna tayo sa 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel verse 3. Chapter 3 verse 1. The war between the house of Saul and the house of David lasted a long time. Sila guys nag-aaway. David grew stronger and stronger while the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. So, ibig sabihin kahit patay na si Saul, nag-aaway pa rin sila. Di ba kahapon guys, patay na si Saul sa binasa natin. Kasi yung kung sino yung papalit na king. So, binasa natin kahapon yung war between the house of David and Saul. Ngayon naman, the war between the house of Saul and the house of David lasted a long time. David grew stronger and stronger while the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. Sons were born to David in Hebron. His firstborn was Amnon, the son of Ahinoam of Jezreel. Nakalagay guys, sons were born to David in Hebron. His firstborn was Amnon, the son of Ahinoam of Jezreel. His second, Caleb, the son of Abigail, the widow of Nabal Carmel. So, sa dalawa niyang asawa, nagkaanak siya. The third, Absalom, the son of Micah. Wala, ang dami niyang asawa. Daughter of Talmai, king of Gezor. The fourth, Adonijah, the son of Haggith. Lahat to inanakan niya. The fifth, Shephatiah, the son of Abital. The sixth, Ithram, the son of David's wife Eglah. These were born to David in Hebron. Bilangin ko lang asawa niya. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, 6. Pang-7 yung una niyang asawa si Michal. Pero wala siyang anak doon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, 6. Bawa naman si Michal. Hindi na nababanggit. Abner goes puyok na tayo. Abner goes over to David. So, ang mga anak niya ay si Amnon, Caleb, Absalom, Adonijah, Shephatiah, and Ithram. Tapos yung mga asawa niya, si Ahinoam, si Abigail, si Micah, Haggith, Abital, and Eglah. So, yun yung mga asawa niya. Eglah. Dito tayo sa verse 6. Abner goes over to David. During the war between the house of Saul and the house of David, Abner had been strengthening his own position in the house of Saul. Now Saul had a concubine named Rizpah, daughter of Aiah. And Ishbosheth said to Abner, "Why did you sleep with my father's concubine?" So, Hindi ba bawal ang adultery? Ito concubine. Why did you sleep with my father's concubine? Sabi ni Isbusit kay Abner. Talagang dinidetalye natin, no? Abner was very angry of what Isbusit said, and he answered, Am I a dog's head on Judah's side? This very day I am loyal to the house of your father Saul and to his family and friends. I haven't handed you over to David. Yet now you accuse me of an offense involving this woman. My God, deal with Abner, be it ever so severely. If I do not do if I do not do for David what the Lord promised him on oath, and transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul and establish David's throne over Israel and Judah from Dan to Beersheba. Ishbosheth, Ishbosheth. So, Ishbosheth or Ishbosheth, bahala na kayo. Did not dare to say another word to Abner because he was afraid of him. Then Abner sent messengers on his behalf to say to David, Whose land is it? Make an agreement with me, and I will help you bring all Israel over to you. Good, said David, I will make an agreement with you, but I demand one thing of you. Do not come into my presence unless you bring Michal, daughter of Saul. Ayun, nabanggit din. Itong pinakalab ko sa mga asawa ni David, si Michal. Do not come into my presence unless you bring Michal, daughter of Saul, when you come to see me. Then David sent messengers to Ishbosheth, son of Saul, demanding, Give me my wife. Give me my wife, Michal, whom I betrothed to myself for the price of 100 Philistines foreskins. Yehey! Tuwang-tuwaan. Magkakabalikan na sila. So Ishbosheth give orders and her take and so sa verse 15. So Ishbosheth gave orders and had her taken away from her husband Paltiel. Oo, binigay pala siya kay Paltiel, son of Laish. Her husband, however, went with her weeping behind her all the way to Bahurim. Then Abner said to him, Go back home. So he went back. Ayun. Binigay si Mitchell pala kay Paltiel. Nakalimutan natin. Kaya pala nawala sa story. Abner conferred with the elders of Israel and said, For some time you have wanted to make David your king. So 17 na tayo, guys. Abner conferred with the elders of Israel and said, For some time you have wanted to make David your king. Now do it, for the Lord promised David by my servant David, I will rescue my people, Israel, from the hand of the Philistines and from the hand of all their enemies. Abner also spoke to the Benjamites in person. Then he went to Hebron to tell David everything that Israel and the whole house of Benjamin wanted to do. When Abner, who had 20 men with him, came to David at Hebron, David prepared a feast for him and his men. Then Abner said to David, Let me go once and assemble all Israel for my lord the king, so that they may make compact with you, and that you may rule over all that your heart desires. So David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. Joab murders Abner. Yan ang title niya. Just then David's men and Joab returned from a raid and brought with him a great deal of plunder. But Abner was no longer with David in Hebron, because David had sent him away and he had gone in peace. When Joab and all the soldiers with him arrived, he was told that Abner son of Ner had come to the king, and that the king had sent him away, that he had gone in peace. So verse 24. So Joab went to the king and said, "What have you done? Look, Abner came to you. Why did you let him go? Now he is gone. You know Abner son of Ner, he came to deceive you and observe your movements and find out everything you are doing." Joab then left David and sent messengers after Abner, and they brought him back from the wall of Sirah, Sirah. But David did not know it. Now when Abner returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside into the gateway, as though to speak with him privately, and there to avenge the blood of his brother Asahel. Joab stabbed him in the stomach, and he died. So ganti-gantihan na sila. Later, when David heard about this, he said, "I and my kingdom are forever innocent before the Lord concerning the blood of Abner son of Ner. May his blood fall upon the head of Joab and upon all his father's house. May Joab's house never be without someone who has a running sore or leprosy, or who leans on a crutch, or who falls by sword, or who lacks food." Joab and his brother, excuse me, Joab, verse 30. Joab and his brother Abishai murdered Abner because he had killed their brother Asahel in the battle of Gibeon. Then David said to Joab and all the people with him, "Tear your clothes and put on sackcloth and walk in mourning in front of Abner." King David himself walked behind the bier. They buried Abner in Hebron, and the king wept aloud at Abner's tomb. All the people wept also. The king sang this lament for Abner: "Should Abner have died as the lowliest die? Your hands were not bound, your feet were not fettered. He fell as one falls before wicked men." And all the people wept over him again. Then they all came and urged David to eat something while it was still day. But David took an oath, saying, "May God deal with me, be it ever so severely, if this bread or anything else before the sun sets." All the people took note and were pleased indeed. Everything the king did pleased them. So on that day all the people and all Israel knew that the king had no part in the murder of Abner son of Ner. Then the king said to his men, "Do you not realize that a prince and great man has fallen in Israel this day? And today, though I am the anointed king, I am weak, and the sons of Zeruiah are too strong for me. May the Lord repay the evildoer according to his evil deeds." Ishbosheth murdered. So, pumatay din si Ishbosheth. When Ishbosheth, son of Saul, heard that Abner had died in Hebron, he lost courage, and all Israel became alarmed. Now Saul's son had two men who were leaders of raiding bands. One was named Benah, and other Rechab. They were sons of Rimmon, the birthright from the tribe of Benjamin. Bakit sila nag-aaway, guys? Magkakapatid ang mga yan. Magkakapatid na tribe. From the tribe of Benjamin, Beeroth is considered part of Benjamin because the people of Beeroth fled to Gittim, and have lived there as aliens to this day. Jonathan, son of Saul, had son who was lame in both feet. Merong anak si Jonathan na lame. He was 5 years old when the news about Saul and Jonathan came from Jezreel. His nurse picked him up and fled, but as he hurried to leave, he fell and became crippled. His name was Mephibosheth. Ang mga pangalan nila magkakahawig pero ang hirap bigkasin. His name was Mephibosheth. Now Rechab and Baanah, the sons of Rimmon, the Beerothite, set out for the house of Ishbosheth, and they arrived there in the heat of the day, while he was taking his noonday rest. They went into the inner part of the house, as if to get some wheat, and they stabbed him in the stomach. Then Rechab and his brother Baanah slipped away. They had gone into the house while he was lying on the bed in his bedroom. After they stabbed and killed him, they cut off his head. Grabe, napaka-harsh. They cut off his head, taking it with them. Pero manot, magta-travel kayo, dala-dala niyo yung pugot na ulo. Taking it with them, they traveled all night by way of the Arabah. They brought the head of Ishbosheth to David at Hebron, and said to the king, "Here is the head of Ishbosheth, son of Saul, your enemy, who tried..." Inom nga muna tayo, guys, pagod na yung lalamunan natin. Pero naano talaga ako rito pag napaka-brutal ng pagkakapatay. Iniisa-isa ko talaga. Here is the head of Ishbosheth, son of Saul, your enemy, who tried to take your life. This day the Lord has avenged my lord the king against Saul and his offspring. David answered Rechab and his brother Baanah, the sons of Rimmon, the Beerothite, "As surely as the Lord lives, who has delivered me out of all trouble, when a man told me, 'Saul is dead,' and thought he was bringing good news, I seized him and put him to death in Ziklag. That was the reward I gave him for this news. How much more when wicked men have killed an innocent man in his own house and on his own bed? Should I not now demand his blood from your hand and rid the earth of you?" So papatayin din kayo. Bakit kasi pinugutan niyo ng ulo? Si King Saul nga di ba nga, sabi nga niya, pinatay din yung pumatay sa kanya. Nagpakamatay pa yun si King Saul, ha? Tinuluyan lang. So David gave an order to his men and they killed them. Ayun, pinatay din sila. Puro patayan. Itong na to, puro patayan yung sa 2 Samuel. They cut off their hands and feet and hung the bodies by the pole in Hebron, but they took the head of Ishbosheth and buried it in Abner's tomb at Hebron. David becomes king over Israel. All the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron and said, "We are your own flesh and blood. In the past, while Saul king over us, you were the one who led Israel on their military campaigns. And the Lord said to you, you will shepherd my people Israel, and you will become the ruler. When all the elders of Israel had become When all the rulers of Israel had come to King David at Hebron, the king made a compact with him at Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David king over Israel. David was 30 years old, ang bata pa, no? When he became king. O nga, ang bata pa niya, pero ang dami na niyang asawa. Ang dami niyang asawa. Nawala na yung kamay ko. David was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned 40 years in Hebron, he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned over all Israel and Judah 33 years. Wow, so umabot siya ng ilang taon na siya noon? $40. Ang tagal pala ng muno ni David, no? King David. David conquers Jerusalem. The king and his men marched to Jerusalem to attack the Jebusites who lived there. The Jebusites said to David, you will not get in here. Even the blind and the lame can ward you. They thought David cannot get in here. Nevertheless, David captured the fortress of Zion, the city of David. On that day, David said, anyone who conquers the Jebusites will have to use the water shaft to reach those lame and blind, who are David's enemies. That is why they say, the blind and lame will not enter the palace. David then took up residence in the fortress, and called in the city of David. He built up the area around it from the supporting terraces inward, and he became more and more powerful because the Lord God Almighty was with him. Now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messengers to David along with cedar logs and carpenters and stone masons, and they built a palace for David. And David knew that the Lord had established him as king over Israel, and had exalted his kingdom for the sake of his people Israel. After he left Hebron, David took more concubines and wives. OMG. Kita mo, normal lang nung araw yung daming concubines sa asawa. Ito yung naalala ko na ilan yung concubines niya, 1,000 ba yun? Tapos iniisip ko, paano kayo nagagawa ni King David yun, ang isang taon natin is 365 days lang. Tapos 1,000 yung concubines niya. Ayun ko kung saan ko ba yung nabasa ko na yata in advance dati. Ay, araw-araw isang concubine. Ay, hindi lang isa. After he left Hebron, David took more concubines and wives in Jerusalem, and more sons and daughters were born to him. These are the names of the children born to him there: Shammua, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon, Ibar, Elishua, Nephi, Japhia, Elishama, Eliada, and Eliphelet. So, ilan yan? Excuse me. Inaantok na tayo. David defeats the Philistines. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, they went up in full force to search for him, but David heard about it and went down to the stronghold. Now the Philistines had come and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. So David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I go and attack the Philistines? Will you hand them over to me?" The Lord answered him, "Go, for I will surely hand the Philistines over you." King David, paano ba sumagot sa Father God? Sana ganun din si Father God sa atin ngayon. Habang nagbabasa tayo, kausap din natin siya. Tapos sasagot din. Ay, nako. So David went to Baal Perazim, and there he defeated them. He said, "As waters break out, the Lord has broken out against my enemies before me." So that place was called Baal Perazim. The Philistines abandoned their idols there. So iba pala yung God ng Philistines. May mga idols sila. The Philistines abandoned their idols there, and David and his men carried them off. Once more the Philistines came up and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. So David inquired of the Lord, and he answered, "Do not go straight up, but circle around behind them and attack them in front of the balsam trees. As soon as you hear the sound of marching the troops in the tops of the balsam trees, move quickly, because that will mean the Lord has gone out in front of you to strike the Philistine army." So David did as the Lord commanded him, and he struck down the Philistines all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. So yan, 3, 4, 5. Haba din tatlong chapter. Dito na tayo sa Luke chapter 25. Luke chapter 14, verse 25 to 35. Jesus teaches about the cost of being a disciple. Yan ang title niya, guys. Large crowds were traveling with Jesus. On turning to them, he said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, his wife and children, his brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. And anyone who does not carry his cross and follow me cannot be my disciple." Really? Mag-hate daw yung father. Pag nakalagay, guys, so if anyone comes to me and does not hate. So ibig sabihin, kailangan i-hate, kasusuklaman mo yung father, mother mo. He cannot be my disciple. And anyone who does not carry his cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower, will he not first sit down and estimate the cost to see if he has enough money to complete it? For if he lays the foundation and is not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule him, saying, "This fellow began to build and was not able to finish." Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Will he not first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? If he is not able, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and will ask for terms of peace. So pag hindi kaya na makikipaggera, guys, gumawa na lang kayo ng terms of peace. Iwasan kasi ang gera. Aanhin mo ba yung gera-gera na yan? In the same way, any of you, kasi nag-aaway-aaway sila sa lupa lang. Pag na-lupi kasi, mapupunta na sa kanila yung halimbawa yung bansa na yun. Kaya lang, bad pa rin. Kasi may sarili na silang lupa, diba? Tapos makikipaggera pa. Salt is good. It's annoying. In the same way, any of you who does not give up everything he has cannot be my disciple. Oh, ayan na guys, ito oh. In the same way, any of you who does not give up everything he has cannot be my disciple. So, gawin natin itong description yung verse 33. Salt is good, but it loses its saltiness. How can it be made salty again? It is fit neither for the soul nor for the manure of Paul. It is thrown out. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. So hanggang dyan na siya sa verse 35. Bye everyone, God bless.